It is finally here. If you haven't seen the news already, I'll be glad to be the first one to tell you that the sweeping government spending and stimulus bill has been passed in Congress and signed into law by President Trump. This was the soonest I could possibly record this video. I literally just got home from a short trip with my family up in Minnesota. I'm back in the studio, recording this as quickly as I possibly can to get that out there. This just happened a few hours ago as of the recording of this. Now, I know we had quite the roller coaster of the last week. Well, I guess we could say we had quite the roller coaster of the last, almost year at this point. But anyways, in the last week where the bill was nearly guaranteed to be signed in by Tuesday by President Trump, and then it didn't happen. I mean, the White House literally was saying President Trump is willing to sign. It looks good to go. We gave it a 99% probability of getting passed early last week, and then it didn't happen. And it didn't happen largely because of $2,000 stimulus checks, something that Trump wanted weeks and weeks ago, and White House aides convinced him otherwise. And then I guess he changed his mind and said, no, we want $2,000 stimulus checks still. And he recorded a video calling the bill an absolute disgrace and tore it apart. Just talking about all the different areas within the bill that he disagrees with. The outside funding to foreign countries, billions and billions of dollars to foreign countries, things like money to fisheries and to study down trees, all sorts of things that just aren't stimulus related, aren't money to the people directly where we all agree the money should be going. We should be giving every single dollar to the people. And pretty much everyone I know, and you probably agree with Trump, the bill just doesn't make total sense. Yes, there's some great parts in there, especially for small businesses. There's a lot of funding for small businesses, but there was a lot more that could have been done with that money. So I'm here to give you some kind of good news and some bad news. I guess good news and not so good news. The bill passed, but with no $2,000 checks. We're still looking at those $600 checks, and there's still tons of funding to foreign countries and special interests and all sorts of things that just make you scratch your head and you're like, why is money going to all these things? So it's a little bit of a celebration right now that there's a small stimulus coming to at least everyone. There's a lot of programs that will help many people. You might be able to be helped by more than one program, but you will at least get that $600 stimulus check, which will probably cover, Christmas gifts and a little bit more. We're hopeful that more is coming, but as of right now, we're going to talk about what we have on our plate. We don't have an explanation why Trump decided to sign this bill last minute. It could come down to something like pressure from other Republicans, pressure from the White House, just saying hey, this is going to be really hard to change anything and get it done within the time frame. And because unemployment expired last week and there's mounting pressure with that and people who would now not receive their benefits for every single day he didn't sign. So he looks to me like he put up a good fight. He tried to get more money to the people. But unfortunately, just the way things are set up, it just didn't work this time. And it was almost like his hand was forced to sign this. And as a result, we're receiving, less than a third of the stimulus that he wanted to see, the House wanted to see. Many people wanted to see those $2,000 stimulus checks. So really, unfortunately, none of Trump's demands were made before signing the bill into law. However, he says he'll be sending a red line version of the bill back to Congress to, quote, insist that those funds will be removed from the bill. So he's going to send a bill back, this 6,000-page bill, and cross out certain items, say this shouldn't happen, this shouldn't happen, this shouldn't happen. Maybe he's saying instead of giving $1 billion to this country, that should go to the people. We're not sure exactly how that's going to happen. I'd love to see this happen. And to see the maximum amount of relief go to the people, I'm sure you would as well, and more money to small businesses. But with only a month left in Trump's presidency, it's being stated that it is very unlikely that any of his demands will be met, especially after signing. I mean, his negotiation power of not signing is kind of gone now that he's signed it. And we might see a situation where the House and the Senate is like, we don't really have a reason to frantically fix this when he's going to be gone in a month. So it's this is a conflicting video to make, because it's like, 9, 10 months of all these negotiations coming to an end, and we're seeing some aid, but we all know that it could be better. So hopefully we see more relief in the future. Hopefully this isn't the end of it, especially if things don't get better quickly. If virus cases stay on the rise, if unemployment claims aren't getting much better. Hopefully we see more relief very soon, more stimulus, more money to businesses, small businesses, that is. Hopefully we see more, but as of right now, we have kind of what we have. There is talk about the House voting on an amendment for a larger stimulus check, but again, we just can't bank on that right now. We know they wanted that $2,000 check, but the past weekend, Congress was frantically trying to figure something out with Trump's demands. Obviously, they didn't make really any offers, but they weren't sure what he was going to do, and it was completely unexpected that he signed this last night. He was actually on vacation when he signed it, Christmas vacation. Signed it in, and there we go. So what we need to do right now is look at all the relief that is definitely available. Then in the near future, we can look at the prospects of getting even more. But before we do that, I need to let you know that there's only 3 days left to take advantage of the 4 free stocks with Webull through the link in my description. I know a lot of you have done this. Literally all my family has done this. It's a great deal. All you need to do is deposit $100 into your account and you'll get 4 stocks totally free. And you don't even have to spend the $100. Plus, you'll be helping out this YouTube channel. You'll be helping me out directly for my daily effort in these things. So it's an awesome deal. All right, now let's talk about all the major forms of relief that you may be entitled to within this 6,000 page bill. So this is going to be an overview of everything significant. If you've been following me, I have more detailed videos on some other things, and I'll be doing even more videos in greater detail on other forms of relief. I'll go over those as we kind of come to them in this video. So starting off with stimulus checks, we're looking at those $600 stimulus checks per person and $600 stimulus checks for child dependents. The size of the check decreases for those who earn more than $75,000 per year and hit zero at $99,000 per year. We know that couples at $150,000 a year starts decreasing to $199,000 a year. The checks will still go to those who receive Social Security, SSI, and SSDI. The size of the checks has, of course, been the subject of a ton of debate. I don't really know why, because pretty much everyone agrees that there should be stimulus checks to the people, but there's debate, nonetheless. I personally hope to see a third round of checks or enhancements to $2,000, but it's very unlikely that we'll see another bill passed on stimulus within the next month at least. We might see something in February, maybe, but again, we got to just focus what we have right now. I have a video that breaks down all of who will and who won't receive the $600 stimulus check, and I'll have that linked above here. From here, we have jobless benefits. We're looking at $300 per week in a boost that will resume as of today and run through at least March 14th. Right now, at least 20 million people are receiving unemployment, and that number's actually been increasing in recent months. So I'm really happy to see that that's going to continue despite the lapse in a few days that we saw this last week, I guess yesterday and the day before. Gig workers will still be eligible to receive this unemployment boost, which is huge, landmark. It's awesome to see that as well. Moving on, we also have rent assistance and eviction moratoriums. The rent moratorium will be extended now until January 31st, so there's not a huge extension there, but I say for now because this will likely be extended again. On top of this, we have $25 billion in emergency rental assistance, which is a huge amount of money. That's more than the EIDL grant program money that gives $1,000 to $10,000 to small business owners. So that's huge. I'm going to have more on that later on how exactly you can receive some assistance on rent payments. Make sure you're subscribed to stay up to date on that. That's one of the few things I haven't done an in-detail video on yet, and I will very soon. The bill also gives $48 billion to help with virus testing and the purchase and distribution of vaccines that will, quote, make the vaccine available at no charge for anyone who needs it. So that's pretty exciting for anyone who wants to receive the vaccine. Next, we have small business relief, which is probably the most exciting part of this bill. I mean, like a third of the bill goes to different forms of small business relief, which is huge, especially when we compare it to like the stimulus check and things like that, which I don't want to frame this like this is just helping out business owners, which it definitely helps out business owners, but really it's for helping out the employees of businesses, especially, the PPP program, which is Paycheck Protection Program, where most of the money has to go to paychecks to keep people employed. So small business relief is good for everyone. Small businesses employ something like 50% of the US workforce. So we want small businesses to survive and be able to compete against, the large businesses. So this bill includes another round of paycheck protection funding and business funding, just kind of in general. There's a lot of smaller nuances there. $284 billion will go directly to the Paycheck Protection Program for first and second rounds. There's still businesses who haven't done the first round, but there's also going to be access to the second round for businesses who have shown a decrease in revenue of more than 25% in any 8-week period compared to an 8-week period before the pandemic. It gets a little complicated on who exactly can apply, but most businesses are likely to be able to apply because it only has to be one specific 8-week period. So like in March and April, many businesses saw 50, 60, 70% declines in revenue. So we'll likely be able to take an 8-week period in there and then compare that to an 8-week period either sometime earlier in the year or the year before and be able to say, hey, our revenues went down more than this allotted amount. I need a second round of paycheck protection funding. And then also within this bill, lawmakers have come to a resolution on the first round of paycheck protection loans and its tax consequences. Under the new guidance, the costs that are spent by paycheck protection funding and then forgiven, meaning that money you don't have to return with the loan, will be tax deductible as long as the small business has shown a loss in revenue in 2020 compared to years before, which is absolutely huge and will result in tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in stimulus, in effective stimulus towards small businesses who receive these paycheck protection loans. So that is very awesome and exciting to see. Within the new paycheck protection funding, a portion of the funds will be slotted for very small businesses and minority businesses as well. This is great to see as larger businesses kind of dominated funding last time around. And this time the employee cap will be 300 compared to 500 last time. And I've seen there's some other little nuances there to help prevent the large businesses from receiving the funding. Like you can't be a public company. There was tons of public companies that received these and just other issues with it. I mean, 500 employees is a huge company. There was one that had a market cap of like $450 billion and they received a paycheck protection loan. That's absurd. So the bill also includes $15 billion for movie theaters and cultural institutions that were hit hard by shutdowns. And I have a separate video on the Paycheck Protection Program that goes over all the nuances that we know right now, who's eligible, who's not. I'll have that linked above as well. We're also looking at another round of EIDL grants in the amount of $20 billion. And this one is huge. The rules here, though, are a little bit complicated. So how it's going to work is, a lot of small businesses received that $1,000 to $10,000 grant the first time around. First, they said, it's going to be $10,000 everyone, and then they backed down and said it's $1,000 per employee. Well, if you receive that $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever, anything smaller than $10,000, you might actually still be eligible under this new stimulus bill to up that to $10,000. Or if you haven't applied at all, you might be eligible to just get $10,000. Now, the complication comes in here where they are slotting that funding to go to areas that are less affluent, who have less money. So how they're going to tell is the poverty rate in your area or the median family income compared to comparing your area to the state. It's complicated. So I have a video that breaks this down as well. You'll want to watch that if you're interested in the EIDL grant. That one is probably the most confusing, so I'll have that linked above as well. Then finally, we were looking at a tax credit to help employers who offer sick leave to employees. Moving on, we also have $82 billion to go to schools. Part of this will cover HVAC repair and replacement to help reduce the risk of COVID infections in classrooms. Then on top of this, we have $10 billion for childcare assistance. $13 billion is going to increase SNAP benefits. That was another hotly debated item for whatever reason. $7 billion will go to help increase access and accessibility of broadband internet. $45 billion is going to transportation, including $16 billion to the airlines to the PSP program. And I have some friends that are in the airline industry that I'm going to be texting right after this video because they're going to be extremely happy to know that this went through, because that is literally the difference between many airline workers keeping their job and not. So that's a great program to have as well. And like we talked about before, there's going to be no additional aid for state and local governments at this time. However, there was an extension for the deadlines for previous funding through the CARES Act, so states have a little bit more time to spend the money that they already received. And there's also going to be no new liability protections for entities. On this, McConnell has said if there's another bill, this will definitely be included in another stimulus bill. And that's going to do it for all the main items on the bill. I would just like to give you a sincere thank you if you've been tuning in on a daily basis for the last several months while we rode this roller coaster of stimulus in 2020. I hope to see you in future videos. Even when the thought of stimulus is just a distant memory, I'll still be here reporting different content and keeping you updated. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.